Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody for tuning in to another episode of the Sports Oriented Wokeism Show, the only platform where uh, headlines talk about wokeism in sports culture are being discussed, and my job is to break it down for you in order for you guys, the viewers or the listeners, to spark the conversation on whether or not the sports culture is being infected with wokeism. And I, myself, Solomon Wafua, I'm your host for this show, and this is my responsibility to break down every headline that affects sports culture due to wokeism. And hopefully, by the end of this episode, this will spark a conversation, and hopefully, this can be shared among your peers from wherever you are. So, before I begin, just want to thank everybody for your contributions in the previous episode. From wherever you are, I really appreciate it, and this helps me and pushes me further to go out of the comfort zone and help me to, you know, push the show forward and grow the channel. Thanks to you guys who have been tuning in or listening to me, and also giving your verbal contributions in one way or another. And so today, my focus will be on Leah Thomas fighting a losing war. That will be my title of today, and this basically is going to talk about uh, the upcoming Olympics in the summer of this year 2024 being held in Paris, and of course one of the main concerns concerning the quadrennial uh, event is of course issue to do with LGBTQ. And we all know LGBTQ is part of the woke ideology, whereby you have to embrace the oppressed or the underrepresented, all in the name of diversity, equity, and inclusion on one side, but on the other hand, it's all a form of dictatorship, all a form of entitlement, and all a form of censoring free speech if you go against them. So that is my response. That is the agenda behind all everything to do with wokeism. And so, before I go forward to the next uh, jump forward to what I've detailed according to my research. Now we all know that wokeism is something very, very, should I say, delicate, but at the same time it's very dangerous, because this affects all sectors of society and all sectors of economy in whatever country you represent, and it affects societies, individuals, and families all together. If there is no cure or prevention to it, then that means that the society will become worse than it was left way back. So I hope we're going to be thrilled, be empowered, and at the same time be informed on what's going on, because this is a recent trend, or no, let me not say the word trend, but it's a recent headline which was uh, no, which was there on the online streets recently, like last week. Of course, someone named Leah Thomas, who competed as a transgender in college, in college swimming, defeating Riley Gaines, who of course is a biological woman, who was the defending swimming champion before this transgender person took over the sport in college swimming. That's just a bit of background of who Leah Thomas is. Now, since then, she has been widely recognized by the alphabet community for coming out of the comfort zone and declaring yourself as this gender. And people and normal people will think, who cares about that? And if you want to do you, as people say, do it in your private place or uh, condition somewhere else, but not do it in public like everybody is going to be welcome by it. So that's who Leah Thomas is, that's where she is. That before I discuss what Leah Thomas did, be able to spark a debate or further discussion, because right now there's an ongoing rivalry between Leah Thomas representing the LGBTQ, and then you have Riley Gaines representing normal people and conservative people at the same time, because she is a Christian. She's married uh, to a biological man, and they're living happily as a couple. But for Leah Thomas, is of course, is like Dylan Mulvaney and others who want to get recognition for basically transitioning into another gender which they are not biologically born with, as created by God. But let's just dwell into what I jotted down in terms of the background till this point. Now, IOC, which represents the International Olympic Committee, just the other day, I believe, late last year, when they have issued a ruling saying that transgender athletes must have completed their transition before the age of 12 to avoid unfair advantages of biological female athletes. Now, that ruling did not receive a good welcome by the LGBTQ community because that means that they are being restricted or they are being banned from competing in the Olympics, specifically in that event. Now, how did it come up to that point where Leah Thomas went to sue one of its sports bodies that is under the umbrella of the IOC? Now, let's go back to history and see how it led up to that moment. Now, if you go to 2003, that's basically 20 years, 21 years back, the IOC's Medical Commission issued guidelines for participating athletes who had undergone sexual reassignment. Now, according to the report, they the guidelines include athletes must have undergone sex reassignment surgery. That's one, and then two, athletes must show legal recognition of their gender, and thirdly, the athletes must have undergone hormone therapy for an appropriate time before participation of the Olympics. According to them, it's basically 2 years maximum before the Olympics. Now, when they issued the guidelines, a year later, in 2004, that's now 20 years ago, the IOC allowed transgender athletes to participate in the Olympic Games. Now, something just surprised me when I was going through the research that, according to Wikipedia, there has been a steady increase of LGBTQ athletes competing both in the summer and the winter Olympics. Now, of course, summer Olympics happen in the summer between July and August, and then for the winter Olympics happen between January and February, happening in countries that experience real snow during that certain period of time. But hey, that was 2004. IOC allowed transgender athletes to participate in the Olympic Games so long as those guidelines have been met, as I had mentioned not long ago. Then move forward to 2015, it was being modified. But now, those new guidelines that are modified is now saying that in order to avoid barriers of entry, according to some nations that ban, sex, gender reassignment or hormone therapy or even the LGBTQ community, they now say that trans woman athletes declare their gender and not change that assertion for 4 years. Now, this can work in Western countries that, of course, have loosened freedom, so to speak. Not all of it, but have some loosened freedom to do whatever they want. That is just one of the new guidelines that they modified. And then another one, it says, so long as you've declared your gender and did not change it for those 4 years, then also you have to demonstrate a testosterone level of less than 10 nanomales or nanomoles per liter for at least a year prior to competition and throughout the eligibility period of, I believe that's 4 years. Now, if you demonstrate your gender and shown that your testosterone level is at that amount, then you are allowed to compete. That is according to the modified guidelines in 2015. Now, this was put in effect for the 2016 Rio Olympics, but unfortunately, no openly transgender athletes competed. Then move forward to the next one, that is in 2021, which was pushed after the COVID pandemic began in 2020, that was pushed over to the summer 2021. 3 famous transgender athletes came out. Now, let's start with Laurel Hubbard. A New Zealand weightlifter became the first coming out trans woman to compete in the Summer Olympics. However, she did not complete any of her weight lifts and won no medals. That tells you that when you don't appreciate what God has created you, this is the result you get. And then another person is called Queen, a Canadian non-binary soccer player, became the first transgender person to compete at the Olympics by her identity. And they've got Alana Smith, who is an American non-binary skateboarder, also represented the United. Represented the United States as a transgender in skateboarding and reached all the way to the semifinals. For Canada, they did. I think they were locked out early in that tournament, the Olympic football tournament, according to sources online. But also in that same year, later in 2021, in November, the IOC issued new guidelines that have been described as loosening rules that impede transgender and intersex athletes' participation in Olympic sports, with enforcement of sport-specific rules governing inclusion. So that means that the IOC is not mandated to put a federal, or should I say, a global uh, rule book concerning transgender athletes. It is up to the subsidiary bodies, also known as the federal sports bodies, under them to make such guidelines regarding inclusion. And we all know during that time in the COVID pandemic, that is when all these uh, woke agenda, woke movements like Black Lives Matter, uh, you know, uh, LGBTQ is on the high at its highest peak. Is when they started ganging up and bringing up all types of policies like DEI, hiring in workplaces, in corporate world, or affirmative action in private and public institutions. Things like that is what is being caused by the woke agenda or wokeism. Then next year, the year after that, that is in the Winter Olympics that was held in North Korea, Timothy Leduc, an American, became the first openly non-binary athlete to compete in the Winter Olympics, which he took part in pairs figure skating. So you see, when wokeism penetrates in the Olympics culture, it has now entered into the Summer Olympics and it has entered into the Winter Olympics. But hold on, it reached a point where the IOC had to stand up and stand on the truth. And that truth is that they have banned transgender athletes from competing in either the Olympics of the Summer or Winter Olympics or Paralympics altogether. If they have not completed their transition before the age of 12, meaning they have done it after the age of 12. And that has shut down the woke agenda in the Olympics. Now, what happens after that? Last week or so, Leah Thomas, like I mentioned earlier in this episode, she's known for being transgender, coming out, dominating women's swimming in college. But before then, Leah was a biological male, mediocre in performance, but decided to take advantage of the system and really destroyed women's sports in college. So what did Leah do? Leah Thomas filed a legal dispute against World Aquatics anti-trans policies, which disqualifies most trans women and intersex athletes from international events. Who is her attorney? Carlos Sayao, who also represented Caster Semenya of the same thing. But what happened? Riley Gaines slammed it and said people who are doing that are the men by biology. But we'll see what happens. Yeah, Thomas is out, same as Laurel Hubbard and company. We don't want wokeism in the Olympics, and we don't want to see that in that place. So that's it from me. I hope you've enjoyed it. Put your contributions in the comment section on whatever platform you're using. And until next time, from Solomon Wafua, I appreciate you and goodbye from me.